The film contains historical reconstructions created with artificial intelligence. Due to the depiction of battle scenes, executions, and violent historical events, it is recommended for those under 12 only with parental or adult supervision.
Every nation holds a story about its beginnings. In the memory of the Hungarians, this journey began in the tracks of a mysterious stag. Hunor and Magor, sons of the giant Nimrod and Ene, stood as proud princes before the walls of the ancient Mesopotamian temple, ready to fulfill their destiny and found a new nation. In their eyes burned the fire of the glory of the future and a longing for the unknown. As the brothers grew up, they began their own independent lives. One day, with 100 hand-picked horsemen, they set off to hunt in the endless grassy Eurasian steppe. The ground thundered beneath the horses' hooves, bows were at the ready, whilst the warriors felt the wind of freedom and glory upon their faces as they galloped across the endless steppe. Suddenly, an otherworldly phenomenon broke the silence of the wilderness. From the dawn mist, a beautiful, radiant white hind emerged. Her antlers shimmered in the light of the rising sun, as if they had been woven from stars. The hunters stopped, spellbound, sensing that they were not looking at a mere beast, but a celestial sign. The stag fled before them for days, always allowing them just enough proximity so as not to lose sight of it. The chase led into the dense mist and reed beds of the Meotian marshes. The warriors, brave in the wet, arduous terrain, persistently followed the mystical guide, who seemed to be showing the way into the depths as if floating above the water. In this lush region, rich in game and fish, the stag suddenly vanished into thin air, dissolving into shimmering particles in the golden twilight. It was then that the brothers realized what a rich and secure land the mystical animal had led them to. They decided that they would make their home here, in this fertile landscape crisscrossed by rivers. Hidden within the marshlands, the brothers discovered the daughters of Béla and the Alan King Donal, who were reveling in the fields in the warm glow of the campfires. The warriors took the noble princesses as their wives, establishing the blood ties between the Hun and Hungarian nations that would bind the two peoples together until the end of time. According to the pages of history, our ancestors lived out their daily lives on the endless steppes. Horses grazed amongst the felt yurts, the smoke from the campfires rose to the heavens, whilst the warriors and their families led a nomadic way of life. In their culture and style of warfare, they carried the strength and wisdom of the eastern steppes. The Great Migration began, which led our people from Magna Hungaria towards Etelkoz. Entire families, vast herds and proud warriors set out across the immense distance. Under stormy skies, crossing swift rivers, they journeyed westwards, seeking the land that the prophecies had promised them. On the branch of Hunor, the Huns built a mighty empire. Their greatest ruler, Attila, established his seat in the region of the Tisza. The West feared him, referring to him as the Scourge of God, whilst in his court Roman envoys paid homage, and the treasures of the world piled up at the feet of the wise and just great king. In 453, Attila held a wedding with the beautiful Germanic princess Ildiko. The light of the torches glinted off the golden goblets, and the Hun warriors celebrated their leader joyously. No one suspected that this joyful night would end in the empire's greatest tragedy and would be the king's final feast. Attila's death shook the world. The Hun warriors mourned not with tears but with blood, slashing their faces with knives so that their blood would flow for their glorious ruler. The silent hush of mourning and the light of flickering torches accompanied the king into immortality, whilst the battle for his legacy began amongst his sons. According to legend, Attila was encased in coffins of pure gold, silver and iron, then buried in the diverted bed of the river Tisza so that no one could plunder his grave. The river was diverted back over it, and the gravediggers were shot with arrows. Thus the water and the earth guard the eternal secret of the great Hun king's resting place to this day. Centuries later, Emers, the wife of chieftain Ugyek, had a miraculous dream. The territorial bird, the sacred falcon of the Hungarians, appeared above her and prophesied that a line of glorious kings would spring from her womb. They would be the ones to lead the people to their new homeland, and the name of the Árpád Dynasty would shine forever in history. In 895, the prophecy was fulfilled. Under the leadership of chieftain Árpád, the Hungarian tribes crossed the peaks of the Carpathians and caught sight of the promised land. With this, the conquest of the homeland began, and our people finally found a home in the Carpathian Basin, preserving the glory of the Huns and the mystical memory of the miraculous stag. It was Árpád, the son of chieftain Almos, who finally fulfilled the ancient prophecy of the territorial bird and the legacy of Attila. The Hungarian tribes travelled a long way from Etelkoz to find a new homeland among the peaks of the Carpathians. In 895, due to an unexpected attack by the Pechenegs and deliberate strategic planning that had been ongoing for decades, the Hungarian forces set off. Under the leadership of Árpád, the main army crossed the harsh Vareka Pass. The disciplined entry into the Carpathian Basin had begun. They arrived in the heart of the basin not as conquerors, but as those returning home, following the guidance of the stars and the legends. The Hungarian tribes did not view this territory as foreign land. According to the chronicles, they came to reclaim the land that was rightfully theirs, which their forefather, the mighty Hun king Attila, had once bequeathed to them. The vast plains and protective mountains of the Carpathian Basin represented the promised land. The warriors felt the power of the land, which was ready to welcome its new masters. With this conquest of the homeland, the historical circle of the Huns and Hungarians was closed. According to legend, the glory of the brother nation lived on in the Hungarians, and they were ready to lay the foundation stones of the new state. However, before the weapons spoke, according to legend, the Hungarians obtained the land through cunning. Chieftain Árpád sent his wisest warrior, Kusid, to survey the land. Kusid visited the then ruler of the territory, the Moravian Prince Svatopluk. The envoy was sharp-eyed. He saw that the water of the Danube was sweet, the grass lush, and the soil black and extremely fertile. The grass is lush, the soil is black, the water sweet, reported Kusid to his chieftain. Árpád knew that this place would be perfect for his people. The time had come to seal the symbolic and fateful deal. On behalf of Árpád, Kusid presented Svatopluk with a beautiful snow-white stallion. The horse had a gilded saddle and a bridle of pure gold, a princely gift worthy of a ruler. Svatopluk accepted the magnificent stallion with a smile. He believed he had made the best deal of his life. In exchange for a single horse, the Hungarian envoy asked him only for some water, earth and grass. But the Moravian lord did not know the law of a steppe. Whoever owns the grass, the water and the land owns the entire country. Kusid obtained the samples, and the path to rightful possession opened up for the Hungarians. When Árpád's embassy brought the news, "We have bought the land," Svatopluk flew into a rage. He wanted to have the horse thrown into the Danube and the grass thrown to the dogs, but it was already too late. The Hungarian army set off. The Hungarian forces surged into the Carpathian Basin with overwhelming force. The speed of the light cavalry and the determination of the warriors left the Moravian prince with no chance, and he fled in a panic. In his panic, the fleeing prince eventually perished in the Danube. With this, the Hungarians firmly established themselves in the Carpathian Basin, and a new era in Hungarian history began. The success of the conquerors was secured by weaponry that was centuries ahead of its time. The recurve bow was a true technological marvel. It was constructed with masterful precision from sinew, wood and horn plates. The making of the bow took months. The masters built up the strength of the weapon layer by layer, tailoring every piece to individual requirements. This patience and expertise were the foundation of the Hungarian superiority. The tension of the sinews provided the bow's incredible piercing power. Despite its small size, it was a deadly weapon, even when used from a galloping horse. The warrior and his bow formed an inseparable union. The equipment also included a single-edged curved sabre and a quiver, in which the arrows were stored with their tips pointing upwards for quicker retrieval. Everything was designed for maximum mobility. The most fearsome tactic was firing arrows by reflex whilst facing backwards from the direction of travel. Hungarian horsemen could hit targets with deadly accuracy from every angle, even while standing in their stirrups at full gallop. This style of combat was unknown to the heavily armoured Western knights, and they were unable to defend against it. From the arrows of the Hungarians, O Lord, deliver us. This prayer was filled with terror throughout the whole of Europe. In the Battle of Pressburg in 907, they employed the brilliant ruse of the feigned retreat. The Hungarians pretended to be frightened and to flee from the superior force, luring the enemy after them. Sensing victory, the knights broke their disciplined formation. In the heat of the pursuit, they failed to notice that they were charging straight into the deadly trap of the main Hungarian army on the plains along the Danube. At that moment, the Hungarians suddenly turned around. The hidden main force burst forth from behind the hills and showered the surrounded enemy with a dense hail of arrows. The victory was total and devastating. Decades later, following the death of Grand Prince Giza in 99 and 97, a severe succession crisis shook the country. The question was, who would succeed him on the throne? Two world orders clashed. Chieftain Kapani claimed power based on ancient Hungarian law, the system of seniorship. As the eldest member of the clan, he considered himself the rightful heir, defending the old freedoms and faith. Opposing him was Stephen, who was a proponent of Western primogeniture, the inheritance passing from father to son. Geza wanted to break with the nomadic past and chose Christian Europe as the future for his son. Stephen knew that the transition was the key to survival. Had the Hungarians remained pagan, Christian Europe would simply have wiped out or enslaved the nation under the pretext of a holy war. The final clash took place near Veszprém. With the help of German knights, Stephen faced the furious army of his kinsman Kapani, who were defending their old freedoms. The stakes were enormous. Stephen triumphed, and with that, the Christian kingdom of Hungary was born. Árpád's people found a homeland, and Stephen ensured that this homeland would endure in history for 1,000 years. St. Stephen, on church walls he is a haloed saint, but in reality he was an iron-fisted, ruthless ruler. He had to force a country from nothing into a new order with blood and iron. His legal codes knew no mercy. The new order was not a request, but a command, which he enforced with bloody punishments upon anyone who resisted. Every 10 villages had to build a church. On Sunday morning, there was no choice. The sound of the bell called everyone to Mass, be they peasant or lord. Those who were reluctant were forced by armed might. In this age, faith was not a matter of conviction, but a test of obedience. Anyone who chose the market instead of Mass paid a heavy price. They were whipped and their head was stripped of its adornment. Their hair was shaved off so that everyone could see their sin. The power of public humiliation was greater than any fine. The shaven head became the mark of the rebel and the negligent in Stephen's Hungary. But the ancient faith did not die easily. Deep in the forests, by springs and ancient trees, they continued to make sacrifices to the old gods in secret. Those who were cool faced death or corporal punishment. Those who broke the fast and followers of pagan rites were cruelly persecuted. The last rays of light of the ancient world were extinguished by the torches of Christian knights. Sunday belonged to the Lord. Anyone who ploughed or harvested on that day lost everything. The soldiers would take their oxen and tools, condemning the family to starvation. There was no room for pleas. The letter of the law was more sacred than individual fate. The machinery of the state ruthlessly ground down the old way of life. The harshest punishments were reserved for rebels and blasphemers. Cutting off ears, removing tongues, knocking out teeth. Silence sometimes spoke louder than any words. István did not know the meaning of compromise. Anyone who spoke out against the king or the church was silenced forever. Deterrence was the foundation of stability. Farmers had to give 1/10 of everything they had to the church. This was the tithe. Refusing the tithe was considered theft and was punished with enslavement. Every grain of corn and the 1/10 of every animal served to build the new faith. For the people, Christianity was synonymous with oppression and heavy taxes. Stephen did not just settle scores with the people, but with his own family and the tribal chieftains too. He took Jula captive and trampled Ajtoni into the mud with force of arms. The price of a unified Hungary was the blood of the independent chieftains. The last bastions of the pagan world crumbled one by one before the royal army. But there were those who recognized the sign of the times. Samuel Abba, the lord of the Matra, did not rebel but submitted. His reward was the hand of Stephen's sister and the dignity of the Palatine. Samuel became a member of the royal family. His loyalty and strength elevated him to one of the highest dignities in the land, but fate had a different path in store for him. After Stephen's death, chaos descended upon the country. Instead of the hated Peter Orseolo, the people chose Samuel Abba. He was the first king who stood up for the protection of the poor. The lords and the clergy did not look favourably upon the pagan-friendly king. In the background, the threads were already being woven that would lead to Samuel's downfall. 1044, M and number 233, NF and #347. Samuel Abba suffered a tragic defeat at the hands of Peter Orseolo, who returned with a German army. The Hungarian army was decimated on the marshy battlefield. Samuel was murdered whilst fleeing. Peter Orseolo returned, and with him returned the dark age of oppression and foreign rule, but the people's fury erupted. In 1046, Vata, the last warrior of the Old World, stood at the head of the pagans. He shaved his head and demanded the return of the ancient gods. The demand was clear: let everything foreign be destroyed. Let the churches burn, let the priests die. The Hungarians demanded their old life back at any cost. The bloodiest moment of the rebellion was the death of Bishop Gellert. From the cliffs of Gellert Hill, the supreme symbol of the Christian faith was tied to a cart and pushed into the Danube. Gellert's body was crushed against the rocks. This was the last desperate cry for help from paganism in a world that would no longer accept them back. King Andrew I. King Andrew secured the throne with Vata's army, but he knew that if he allowed paganism to triumph, the country would be destroyed. In the end, he too followed in Stephen's footsteps. He banned the ancient rites and ruthlessly crushed the rebels. The circle was complete. Christian Hungary was born through pain, blood, and the will of an iron-fisted ruler. This is how this nation was forged together. At the twilight of the ancient faith, the dawn of a new Christian kingdom broke, one that neither fire nor iron could ever destroy again.
Said Ladislaus, a name that, even from the perspective of 9 centuries, shines as the brightest star in Hungarian history. The Night King, who was a giant not only in spirit but also in body. According to the chronicles, he towered a head above everyone else. He embodied the ideal of the perfect Christian knight. He was brave in battle, merciful to the poor, and unyielding in the law. His figure became a symbol of order and security in an age when the country was dancing on the edge of the abyss. At the start of his reign, the young kingdom of Hungary was fighting for its very existence. Internal power struggles and external pagan attacks were tearing the state's foundations apart. Laszlo knew that only a strong hand could save the Christian Hungarian state. From the east and south, nomadic hordes of Cumans and Pechenegs poured into the country. They burned villages, looted churches, and dragged the Hungarian people into slavery in droves. Laszlo did not hesitate. He set off with his army to pursue them. The chronicles have left us the story of the Battle of Krusehallen as an eternal memory. In the thick of the fight, Laszlo sought out the enemy leaders himself. His military genius and personal bravery broke the strength of the pagans and liberated the captives. It was then that the most famous legend was born. Ladislaus spotted a Cuman warrior who had abducted a Hungarian girl on his saddle. Although he was already wounded, the king caught up with them and, in a dramatic duel, finished off the attacker, saving the girl's life and honor. After his external victories, Ladislaus turned his attention to internal order. The country was ruled by chaos and crime. Respect for private property completely vanished during the struggles for the throne. Theft and robbery had become a daily scourge for the people. Ladislaus' 3 law codes introduced a level of severity that was astonishing even for the time. Anyone who stole more than the value of a hen faced death, blinding, or the loss of a hand. This ruthless discipline was essential for the Hungarian people to relearn how to respect order and the law. The severity eventually bore fruit. Ladislaus knew that the foundation of lasting order was the Christian faith. He consolidated the church organization and ruthlessly persecuted pagan rites. He forbade sacrifices made at springs and trees, binding his nation to Christian Europe once and for all. In 1083, the king executed a political and religious masterpiece. He had King Stephen, Prince Emmerich, and Bishop Gerard canonized, creating the nation's first saints. Ladislaus did not just preserve order, but also expanded the borders. In 1091, he occupied Croatia and pushed the empire's borders out to the Adriatic coast. With this, he elevated Hungary to a major power of European significance in the Carpathian Basin. Thanks to Ladislaus, the country's prestige soared to the skies. His name filled the Christian world with hope, and the neighboring pagan peoples with terror. His reign was the harbinger of the golden age of the Kingdom of Hungary. The people wove wondrous legends around the figure of Ladislaus. The fleeing Pechenegs scattered silver coins to stop the warriors, but the king saw through the ruse. The king, seeing the temptation, prayed to God for help. The miracle did not fail to happen. Before the soldiers' very eyes, the glittering silver coins turned into hard stones. The army did not stop. They continued the pursuit and ultimately achieved a complete victory. When the pestilence, the plague epidemic, was decimating the Hungarian people, Ladislaus, in his helpless grief, turned once again to the heavens. In his dream, an angel appeared to him and promised that God would show the chosen king the path to healing. Following the angel's advice, Ladislaus fired an arrow into the air, asking the Lord that wherever the arrow landed, they might find a remedy. The arrow struck a gentian, the decoction of which healed the sick. To this day, we still call this flower St. Ladislaus herb. Amidst the wild crags of Transylvania, the overwhelming superiority of the Cumans cornered the king and his retinue. It seemed that the deep ravine would be the doom of St. Ladislaus and his loyal knights, as there was no other path left for escape. Ladislaus called upon the name of God, then leapt across the abyss with his horse, Shug. At that very moment, the mountain split in two beneath the feet of his pursuers. Opening a deep chasm between them, thus was born the Turda Gorge, an eternal memento of divine protection. During one of his scorching campaigns, the army reached a desolate, waterless region. The warriors and their horses were on the brink of death from thirst, and the murmur of rebellion and despair could already be heard in the air amongst the hot rocks. The king did not abandon his people. He struck the barren rock with his sword, and from it a cool, life-giving spring of water immediately gushed forth. Like a new Moses, Ladislaus brought forth water from stone, saving his entire army from destruction. The spring still proclaims the king's name to this day. Ladislaus even returned from the dead to defend Hungary. Decades later, when Tartar hordes invaded the country, in the heat of battle, a giant knight clad in armor from head to toe appeared and single-handedly crushed the pagan army. After the victory, the people of Várad checked Ladislaus' tomb. The king's body was drenched in sweat, as if he had only just finished the battle. The Night King remained the guardian of the country, not only in life, but also in his grave. The memory of St. Laszlo is indelible from the Hungarian heart. He remained for us the eternal symbol of chivalry, patriotism and order, having laid rock-solid foundations for the Christian Hungarian state for the centuries to come. At the end of St. Laszlo's earthly journey, the throne was inherited by his nephew, the highly educated Coloman the Learned. His figure ushered in a new era, one that deepened written culture and legal certainty. With King Coloman's wise reign, the history of the Kingdom of Hungary continued to be written on the pages of the Chronicles. Do join us for the next episode, when we will present his life. Goodbye. The figure of Coloman the Learned is one of the most fascinating contrasts in Hungarian history between books and the crown. While his predecessor, St. Ladislaus, was the monumental, dashing Night King, Coloman is described quite differently in the Chronicles. He is remembered as a hunchbacked and lisping ruler, but behind his physical frailty lay a brilliant mind. He was the first true intellectual on the Hungarian throne who believed in the power of knowledge. Originally intended for the priesthood, as a bishop he acquired an education that was unparalleled in Europe. The knowledge he gained in the silence of the monasteries enabled him to govern later using the tools of law. He was a man of intellect who saw the law as the only way to consolidate the empire. In 1095, after the death of St. Ladislaus, the Holy Crown was placed upon Coloman's head. In the background stood his younger brother, the dashing Prince Almos, who craved power with the support of the military elite. The nobility looked upon the priest-king with distrust, unaware of the order that was to come. But Coloman's gaze was steadfast, and it pointed towards the future on the path of nation-building. The younger brother could not bear being sidelined during the coronation ceremony. Almos would not accept his subordination, and immediately began plotting against his brother. The conspiracies woven in the depths of the dark forest demanded the ancient right of sword and blood. Coloman broke with the old tradition. It was not the oldest family member who inherited, but his son. The prince rebelled a total of 7 times, with foreign assistance, to seize power. Coloman realized that the time for intimidation had passed, and he strove for a new, peaceful modernization. He abolished the brutal death penalty and mutilations for minor thefts. He ensured the protection of private property through fines and confiscation of assets instead of death. He introduced a modern judicial system, putting an end to convictions based solely on hearsay. He based the administration of justice on written evidence and credible witnesses. This represented a massive step away from barbarism towards a modern European legal system. Credible witnesses became the cornerstone of judgments in the courts. Coloman's reforms strengthened social peace and trust. The scholarly ruler consolidated his power through the force of law. His most famous act was the law on witches, a triumph for science and logic over blind faith. He declared, "As for Strigai, since they do not exist, no investigations are to be held." He dismissed demon witches as mere figments of the imagination, thereby putting an end to the trials. He continued to punish malevolent sorcerers, but they were convicted for fraud. He chose rationality over dark delusions, ahead of his time. At the beginning of his reign, the undisciplined hordes of the First Crusade threatened the villages. Coloman drove the undisciplined bands of robbers out of our country by force of arms. He demonstrated that the Kingdom of Hungary was a strong European power. When the main army arrived under the leadership of Godfrey, Coloman initiated a diplomatic chess game. He requested Godfrey's younger brother and his family to the court as hostages, as a pledge of peace. The army could only purchase supplies at market prices, thereby protecting the people's economy. With this brilliant deal, Europe's rulers also recognized Coloman's authority. Coloman led successful military campaigns on the Adriatic and captured the city of Zadar. He laid the foundations for Hungarian naval power towards Mediterranean trade. Hungary became a regional great power, extending its influence over the Adriatic as well. In 1102, he was crowned King of Croatia, establishing a personal union. He wisely respected the rights of the Croats, ensuring peace within the realm. 2 crowns upon a single wise head, this was the most successful pinnacle of his statecraft. The peace was fragile. Prince Almos eventually turned to foreign powers. For Byzantine gold and military aid, he would have sacrificed the country's sovereignty. Coloman forgave his younger brother for a long time, but with the final rebellion, the cup was full. In 1115, guards captured Alamos and his young son, Béla, in a chapel. Here, family tragedy and state interest became fatally intertwined in the darkness. He had to make a decision that would avoid a civil war in the country. A blind man could not rule, so Coloman had them deprived of their sight. This cruel act rendered the pretenders to the throne harmless without bloodshed. The shadow of guilt was darker than any codex, and it followed him to the grave. In 1116, the great reformer departed, broken, leaving the throne to his son. His legacy survived in the codices and the law, laying new foundations. In the end, it was the blinded child who ascended the throne as Stephen II, Béla, continuing the fate. With the help of his wife, the fearless Ilona, he successfully united the nation. The blood of Coloman and the legacy of Almos became intertwined in the history of the Hungarian crown. Reason and destiny are both inseparable parts of the Hungarian fate. The story continues with the next king on the new pages of the Book of Fate. At the beginning of the 12th century, the history of the Kingdom of Hungary took a dark turn within the depths of its castles. The ruthless power struggle between the princes of the Árpád Dynasty broke down all barriers across the country. Alongside the luster of the crown, the thoughts of betrayal and fratricide haunted the dark corners of the court. Fearing for his son's succession to the throne, King Coloman the Learned made a terrible decision against his rivals that day. His younger brother, Almos, and his young son, Béla, were imprisoned in the monastery of Domos, where the royal will was carried out. Blinding meant political annihilation, as a blind man could not hold the office. Darkness descended upon the child Béla's eyes forever then, cutting him off from the visible world. The executioner was also ordered to castrate the little boy, so that the Almos line would die out completely. But compassion stirred in the executioner's heart. He sacrificed a poppy in the child's place. Thus, Béla was able to grow up as a man under the protection of the monastery, awaiting the fulfillment of his destiny in the shadows. When Stephen II passed away without an heir, the forgotten, blinded prince was called to the throne. Although he could not see the world, his wife's support enabled him to rule the country with a firm hand. The new royal couple had to account for a difficult past at the nobility's assembly in Arad. The tension was palpable. A clear message was needed to consolidate royal power. Suspicion dwelt in the hearts of the nobles, not knowing what the blind king and Ilona were planning. The walls had ears, and the darkness had eyes. In the court, heavy with intrigue, Queen Ilona knew no weakness that night. She put the question, who was responsible? The stunned silence was broken only by the clatter of weapons. Ilona wanted to see vengeance for her husband. On the Queen's orders, 68 lords were slaughtered on the spot by the warriors. This bloody assembly consolidated Béla the Blind's power and authority throughout the entire country, but the external threat did not wait long either. Boris, the illegitimate son of Coloman, attacked with Russian assistance. In 1132, on the marshy banks of the Sarjo, the Hungarian armies lined up to defend the borders. The battle was merciless, but Béla and his allies ultimately achieved a decisive victory over him. The victory secured years of more peaceful development for the generations to come. Géza followed him on the throne, whose most enduring act was the invitation of the Saxons. The Hospites brought new culture and knowledge to the uninhabited landscapes of Transylvania and the Spice region. These communities received significant privileges from the king in exchange for border defense. The Saxons laid the foundations for Transylvania's later economic strength and the glorious development of its castles. After Géza's death, Byzantium intervened. Rival kings emerged against the legitimate Stephen III. Against Stephen, the country was once again threatened by the devastation of civil war due to the strife incited by the Byzantine court. The desire for the throne and Byzantine gold tested the loyalty of the nobility in the difficult struggle. But among the king's followers, there was a readiness to fight against the element of foreign influence. 3. Stephen defended his crown and the country's independence with arms against the emperor. The Hungarian resistance was tempered in the dust of the battlefields. After Stephen's death, his younger brother Béla brought a new world home. After Stephen's death, his younger brother Béla succeeded him, bringing the splendor of the Byzantine court back home. As a protege of the emperor, he had mastered the secrets of modern statecraft in that distant court. It was this knowledge that enabled Hungary to finally become a major European power during his reign. In 1181, he decreed, all royal matters must be committed to writing within the realm. This reform was the cornerstone of modern public administration, bringing legal certainty to everyone. The chancery was born, and the written word became a new instrument of royal power. Official charters ensured the order of the administration of justice in everyday life. Béla introduced regalian revenues, filling the Hungarian treasury with gold once and for all. By this time, revenues were already rivaling those of Western monarchs, bringing great wealth. It was this strength that enabled the spread of culture and Gothic architecture throughout the kingdom's cities. The country became an unavoidable force, where prosperity and art went hand in hand. After Béla, under Andrew II, and his wife, Gertrude of Morania, foreign influence grew stronger. Positions were given to foreigners, which bred anger among the ranks of the domestic nobility. The Hungarian lords felt pushed out of control due to the arrogance of the Moranians. The dissatisfaction ignited a flame, and the Hungarian lords secretly wove a plan for revenge. In September 1213, the rebels attacked the Queen's hunting camp in the depths of the Pilis. The attack was unexpected and brutal, and the sounds of rage shattered the silence of the forest. Queen Gertrude was butchered, shaking royal authority before the nation. The news of the assassination cast a dark shadow over the house of Árpád for a long time. Andrew was plunged into deep mourning, but his vengeance remained limited due to the strength of the rebels. He only punished the direct perpetrator, helpless against the powerful noble coalition. Tension continued to simmer, and the treasury was emptied due to the extravagant lifestyle. The king, having been pushed to the brink of collapse, had to take action to avoid his downfall. In 1222, the nobility forced him to issue the Golden Bull to secure their rights. This codified the fundamental rights of the nobility, such as tax exemption and judicial protection. The famous article enshrined the right of resistance against royal overreach. With this, the foundations of Hungarian constitutionalism were laid in Székesfehérvár during the age of the Árpáds. The great rulers of the House of Árpád left an indelible mark on history. Stability enabled the kingdom to preserve its integrity throughout the centuries. These reforms forged the nation, rendering it unbreakable in the face of every storm. The echoes of the past still linger today, quiet in the depths of the pillared forests and within these walls. History moves on, and another ominous era looms, the devastation of the Mongol invasion. However, the nation's will to survive outlasts every storm, just as the age of the Árpáds demonstrated. The story continues, for we draw strength from our past to build our future forevermore. Béla IV, the son of Andrew II, despised his father's policies. After ascending the throne, he attempted to reclaim the royal estates that had been given away. He spectacularly humiliated the lords by burning their chairs in the royal council, forcing them to stand in his presence. By doing so, he completely isolated himself from the nobility at the very moment when unity was needed most. In the spring of 1241, the armies of Batu Khan broke through the Verica Pass. No one took the reports from Friar Julian seriously. Dust was already swirling on the horizon, signaling the inevitable approach of the 100,000-strong Mongol army. The country awaited the invaders in a divided state. In the decisive Battle of Mohi, the Hungarian army suffered a crushing defeat. Against Mongol tactics, the wagon fort provided no protection. The banks of the Sajo were filled with blood and mud. This was one of the darkest days in Hungarian history. The flower of the army was lost. Béla IV barely managed to escape the slaughter. His loyal followers selflessly covered their path through the dense forests. The king's life hung by a thread. He fled southwards from his pursuers via Pozsony, whilst the country was being devastated. The king fled all the way to the fortress on the island of Trau, situated on the Adriatic coast. The Mongols pursued him as far as the coast, but halted, lacking ships. There, above the cliffs, he gazed into the distance at the horizon, waiting for a miracle. By this time, nearly a quarter of the country's population had perished. In the spring of 1242, the Tatars unexpectedly withdrew. Only death and famine were left behind in the wasteland amidst the ruins. The death of the Khan called the armies back home. The country survived, but Béla V knew he had to rebuild everything from the foundations. Béla V realized his mistakes. He realized that only stone castles could hold out in the future. A massive fortification program began. He granted estates, but compelled the barons to build walls. This was the most important pillar of the second foundation of the homeland. As the center of defense, he founded the new royal seat on Buda's Castle Hill. The walls of Buda provided security for the people. He granted privileges to the towns, surrounded them with walls, creating the foundations of a modern and defensible Hungary. He also reorganized the military force. He recalled the Coloman warriors and combined nomadic fighting style with heavy cavalry. He also reorganized the military force. He recalled the Coloman warriors and combined nomadic fighting style with heavy cavalry. Béla I's grandson, Ladislaus, turned towards the Comans. He despised the intrigues of the Hungarian court and preferred to live in tents in the nomadic fashion. The Pope excommunicated him and the Hungarian lords hated him. Ladislaus was caught between two worlds, neglecting his royal duties for the sake of his people. His fate caught up with him in 1290 at Koroseg. His own Coloman followers turned against him. Assassins finished him off in his sleep in his tent. With his childless death, the house of Árpád was pushed to the brink of the abyss. The future of the dynasty fell into the hands of the only surviving relative. Andrew III was the last golden twig. Brought home from Venice, he tried to restore order amidst the anarchy of the petty kings, but he too passed away in 1301. With his death, the dynasty founded by St. Stephen became extinct in the male line. The country arrived at a time of dark struggles for the throne and the dawn of the House of Anjou.
Subscribe to the official HeyGen YouTube channel for more tips. Subscribe to our channel. Thank you for joining me.